let's get more on the devastation in Benue State. And joining us in the studios right here in Lagos is an environment expert, Dr. Paul Abolo. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let me ask you now, as an environmentalist, how bad is the situation in Benue State?
It's very bad. As a matter of fact, it needs to be escalated to a national issue and a global issue because it's connected to global warming, climate change, and climate change is a global issue. So we need to look at it from that perspective, and we need to get a little bit more expanse in the way we deal with the issue. We need to deal with the immediate, and we need to deal with the long term, because we need to do some adaptation and mitigation to ensure that this does not happen again.
So it means if saying this does not happen again, it means it could have been prevented.
No, it's a long-term thing. Yes, it could have been prevented years ago. Talking about the global warming, the way we deal with the environment, which is not ethnic to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, the developed nations are the ones who have bastardized the environment. So the developing nations are having the brunt. And that's what the Paris Agreement talked about. The Paris Agreement emphasized that the effect of climate change is going to be felt all around, but the developing nations are going to feel it more because we lack the capacity to deal with it. Look at what's happening in Houston and what's happening in Benue. Of course, the magnitude in Houston is higher, but they have what it takes to deal with it. We don't have what it takes to deal with it. So we need to go into the Paris Agreement and find out how we can assess the funding and technology support to deal with this issue. It's a global issue. Okay,
so that's why the state is calling for on the federal government and ecological funds. Is this a solution that will help?
It's beyond the federal issue. It's a global issue. It's a global warming and climate change issue. We need to escalate it to that level. We need to understand that what's happened to Benue State, we see it happening in other parts of the world, is as a result of global warming. So we need to go into the mitigation and adaptation process. We need to bring up the Nigerian NDC at this point. Those people who are displaced, over 100,000 people, they fall under the vulnerable groups. What we are looking at now is just to provide them immediate need, but it's a lot beyond that. You look at the psychological issue, the trauma, and besides that, nationally, our nation is being challenged because Benue State is a food basket. So what means is that our food supply chain is being challenged. We need to really understand the magnitude of what we are going through.
All right. You talked about immediate solution and long-term solutions. So tell us what's the immediate solution you are proposing and the long-term solution.
All right. They're interwoven. The climate change issue can be regarded as a primary negligence when we talk about the global warming. The secondary negligence could be regarded as the things that we put in place, like we talked about the channels being blocked. Benue State, they have 11 major channels. 9 of them have been built across. 193 buildings have been built across. Those are the secondary negligence. But again, going back to the Paris Agreement, it is realized that the developing nations don't have what it takes even to deal with the secondary negligence, because the secondary negligence involves the sustainable development. That is why the Paris Agreement talks about actions that will lead to sustainable development. You need about 320 billion naira to deal with the channelization and all the stuff you need to do for Benue State. How is the state going to come up with that kind of money? It's not the kind of money you find in the streets of Nigeria. We need to go global and assess help for this, because if we don't take care of this, it's going to come again, and who knows what magnitude is going to come. And it's going to impact on our economy as a nation, again, because Benue State is a food basket. Our kitchen has been taken over.
Okay, yeah. But if you say 9 out of 11 channels were blocked, does it mean that Benue doesn't have enough land to put these buildings on? Why were they built on water channels?
It's connected to a complexity of issues. We talk about urbanization, we talk about population increase, we talk about poverty. These are the things that lead people, I'm not making an excuse for them, to do things in a way that is not quite right. And this is the thing that we negotiated in the Paris Agreement over and over again, that we don't have the capacity to do some of those things. We are a developing nation. So it's not like the Benue State does not know what to do, but there's just no money. The state is looking for money to pay back salaries. So some of these things will happen naturally, except we leapfrog and go beyond our immediate to look for solutions. NEMA is doing a great job. They are providing all the assistance, but it's just to help the people recover and take the people back home. When they get home, I can tell you, they are going to be traumatized because they are going to realize how much impact this flood has made on their lives. They've lost their businesses, they've lost their farms, they've lost their stock. They are going to lose clientele, people that used to come there to do business.
Sure.
So we need to look at this from the broad spectrum of a national issue and then escalate it to a global issue. That's just the way to go.
Well, they have already started seeking global support, and I hope it really comes to them. All right, thank you very much, environmental expert, Mr. Paul Abolo. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.